Before there was the blue pill, the black pill, the any other pill there is, before there was the Matrix and all of these other concepts, there was him, George Orwell, the one who started the beauty in contrarianism. Did he take it too far? Of course he did. But let's get into him because his image will be gotten into now. George Orwell was born in India. He was English. His mother was a French imperialist, and his dad's job, this long, let me read it off the piece of paper. Father, British colonial civil servant who worked as a sub-party opium agent in the opium department of the Indian Civil Service. So what does that mean? He managed the production and storage of opium in the Bengal for the export to China until retiring in 1912. He moved to England at the age of 1 year old, and he was with his sister and his mother. That's why he's written by a woman, because he was surrounded by women from a very young age and did not see his father. His class was lower upper middle class. If you're not British, you don't know what that means, because when I heard it, I was like, what is that? I was like, upper middle, lower, upper middle, lower. I was like, what is he saying? What it means is between traditional middle class and upper elites. Class is a huge thing at that time, and in general, obviously, but when you hear about England, that seems to be a huge thing. That seems to be almost the overarching divide between people, more so than anything else. I don't know if it's the case anymore, but at the time, that's a huge thing. And you're like, oh, isn't it a huge thing everywhere? No, it is a thing everywhere, but the amount of a split obviously is different in different places. And also how bad the bad is different in different places. Like the worst living condition in one country and the worst living condition in another country, depending on your class, looks very different, obviously. But it's an interesting thing that clearly was on his mind a lot. So in the podcast, The Rest is History, which I love to listen to, they were talking about him. And one guy who I think wrote a book about Orwell in England and what it means to be English said that his family had the pressure to uphold class without the money to sustain it, which is a really interesting and unfortunate situation to obviously be in. He went to prep school, he went to Eton, but on a scholarship. He was big and strong with his character. He was not meek or small or like frail. And then he did something that shocked everyone, which was join the police force. And you're like, why did it shock everyone? I don't think at the time it shocked people if you went chronologically, like if you knew him at school and then, but looking at him now from the point of view of the writer that he was, to think that he went to the police force seems like such a contradiction. But I actually love that because I love an informed hatred. I prefer when someone hates a situation, an ideology, or religion, or whatever. I don't like when people hate anything, but you know what I mean? I prefer if they were part of that religion, because even if I don't agree with their points, they have informed points. And even if this is like a back and forth conversation, I get to actually engage with it. Whereas someone who's super uninformed and are talking about cliches of a religion, of this, of that, or whatever, there's not even a conversation to be had. I also didn't go to university. The question of why he didn't go is kind of up in the air. Some say his family didn't have enough money. Some say no, he just didn't want to. Some say he was always a contrarian, and since everyone went to university, he decided not to go. There is no clear-cut reason why, to our knowledge. I mentioned contrarian before, but he's a natural contrarian. He gets off on the idea of debates and even fighting with himself, arguing with himself. He also loved nature. Loved the past, but in a distant way. Politics were where his rational mind could be exercised. Also conservative while teasing the idea of a revolution at all times, but then also saying a revolution is not the solution. Then he got married. 6 months later, he's like, you know what? This marriage is not working out. Let me go to war. No, that's not how it went. But it's also not how it went. And then he said later on about his first wife, I don't think I treated her very well sometimes. I mean, doesn't that say it all? If someone says they didn't treat you well, that really didn't treat you well, because for someone else to acknowledge it takes a bit. He was disappointed by the communists during the war, and then he wrote Animal Farm. We'll get into his writing, don't you worry. Now we're getting into his love life first. He was married, then she died, but before she died, they were together for 9 years. He proposed the idea of an open relationship, and they both kind of had affairs with other people. And then he was so devastated when she died, even though many critics argue that it's kind of weird because he took her for granted when she was alive. Number 2, post that relationship, he proposed quickly to a lot of people because he was sick and he had this fear of dying alone, but nobody said yes. Then he had a marriage of convenience and not love for 1 year. And this is what they say about his love life overall. He was not cruel on purpose, just self-absorbed, awkward, and constrained by his era's gender norms. And even though he was a rebel, rebellion seems to be a masculine trait, or at least for him, it seemed to be something he attributed as a masculine trait. So there's something interesting with a rebel and the rules that a rebel then does decide to follow, and if it's even purposeful or not, who knows? How to write a love letter for George Orwell is to remember his past, remember a moment in its specificity. Why? Because he was deathly scared of forgetting the past. I mean, 1984, and I'm going to address his 2 famous books, 1984 and Animal Farm, which I both have read at the end, just to like nerd out about it. But back to the plan. He has such a fear of forgetting the past in that if the history books wipe all of the past away, how will you remember it? So remembering the past in a love letter would be beautiful for him. Then the quote, "They fear love because it creates a world they cannot control. Where are you willing to give up control because you're willing to let love in?" That's your prompt for the letter. Another quote, "The essence of being human is that one does not seek perfection. What imperfections of theirs are endearing? They may be a little awkward. I find awkward people so endearing. I love it. Not when it's like too much of it, obviously. And you're like, okay, the perfect amount of awkward, okay, Anything else? I get that. But there's something really cool about someone being awkward and not fully comfortable, like the weird professor you sometimes had in school. That sounds weird, but you know what I mean, where they're like a little awkward, but they're really intelligent. Okay. Probably the best nonsense poetry is produced gradually and accidentally by communities rather than by individuals. I think he's talking about society and bigger issues, but the prompt for this is, what nonsense makes sense only with them? Are you watching movies you hate? Are you into rom-coms now all of a sudden? Do you have a skincare routine? Like whatever it is, this is a cute little prompt you can add into this love letter. And here I'll give you the prompt before I give you the poem it's from. It's not from, but what I'm basing it on. What are your plans for the future and why do you not do them today? Let me read you the poem he wrote. He also had another name, but that's not here nor there. Our minds are married, but we are too young is the name of the poem. Our minds are married, but we are too young for wedlock by the custom of this age. When parents home pen each other in separate cage, and only separate yearning song are sung, time passed when the medieval woods were green, babes were betrothed, and that betrothal brief. Remember Romeo in love and grief, those star-crossed lovers, Juliet was 14. Time passed, the caveman by this new-found fire rested beside his mates in wood smoke scent. By our own fireside we shall rest content. 50 years hence keep froth with heart's desire. We shall remember when our hair is white, these cloudy days revealed in radiant light. That's where the prompt is from. This can maybe even inspire the creative juices. And now we're gonna tell you how me are gonna tell you how to write for a character like George Orwell. So I think the best person to write for George Orwell would be Lord Byron. I think they would get along. I don't know if they would, but I think they would. I also think Lord Byron, Yes, I cannot stop talking about him because he's an interesting character. Lord Byron is the type of person everyone would get along with and everyone would slowly start to hate as well, you know what I mean? So, what are the 3 components to writing for someone who is like George Orwell? So like a writer, a thinker, a philosopher, these kind of things. And it doesn't have to be the profession, it just has to be something, you know, when you know. Number 1, short. He reads enough. You don't need to make it long, make it short. If someone, for example, for me, I think me and George Orwell would be friends, but I don't think I'm George Orwell, obviously. I'm so glad I clarified. But if someone would write a love letter for me, I hope to God they wouldn't write like pages and pages. I read all the time. I love reading. I love writing, but I don't need like letters and letters and letters, especially at once. If like I have a cute little box and I can collect them letter by letter, that's cute. But if someone would write me a love letter that's longer than a page, no flattery there. So for a writer, someone that reads a lot, please keep it short. Also, most things need to be kept short. People overspeak. People nowadays rarely underspeak, let me tell you. Number 2, honest. Lies provoke his rebellion. One thing he's absolutely through and through is a truth teller and a truth seeker, and even if he's not right, he will change his mind 3 more times to get to the truth. Not Lord Byron. Freudian slip. Not Lord Byron, but George Orwell, absolutely loves truth. He loves the truth more than he likes being right. Number 3, last component. Apparently I can't show the number 3. Okay. And are you gonna cooperate? It's a little late, okay? Funny, but true. Insults. He likes to be understood. He talks about being understood all the time. There's even one quote of his where he talks about being understood. Perhaps one did not want to be loved so much as to be understood. I want to be loved. I don't know if you need to understand me. No, I do like being understood. But he loved the idea of being understood so much that he compared it to literally love. So, insults are the way to go. I've talked about insults a lot. I can even make a whole video about that, I guess. But yeah, thanks for watching this part. And now we're gonna get into the nerdy part, but I'm a little out of breath, so I'm gonna go sit down. We're gonna chat it out. Oh yeah, so I have my copy of 1984. It's soaked wet and dried, so it looks really like lived in, but I actually love it because it feels very much true to the book. My copy of Anna Karenina also is half bitten. Like, my favorite books are always like run raggedy. But let's talk about Animal Farm and what I loved about it and 1984, because I don't know where else I'm gonna fit this conversation in. Tell me your favorite George Orwell text and essay or poem or whatever in the comments, obviously. So, I loved Animal Farm. I think the thing I found so impressive about Animal Farm, except all of it, was his ability to write. So, okay, spoiler alert, if you've not read it, spoiler alert. I hate spoilers, that's why I'm giving you an alert. You're welcome. So, his ability to write about pigs walking. So there were pigs and there are symbols and so on and so forth, but these pigs are like walking with 2 legs by the end of the book. Like, that's one of the last pages. The chills this scene had running through my veins and my skin. I had so much chills when I was reading that. I was so scared. I've been a human all my life. I've walked upright all my life. I've seen pigs before. Granted, they did not walk upright. But the utter fear I had when reading that, I don't know why. I knew it was a book. I've walked upright. The way he can make you feel things like you're right there with him, crazy. No, 1984. So well done. I think it was really interesting, the love affair that Winston has with, spoiler alert again, obviously, with, I don't remember the name, I'm really bad with names, but with this girl, and the amount of rules they're breaking. And I found it really interesting because these characters are breaking a lot of rules, And some of the rules that they're breaking make sense and are intelligent, and you're like, okay, I get it. And then sometimes you're like knocking on the window of the thought experiment that is happening in the story, and you're like, I don't know if these rules are supposed to be broken. I don't know if this is just auto-contrarianism or if this is a thought-out contradiction that you are saying. It's like when someone's in a debate and they disagree with everything the other person says, and you're like, no, you guys are lying here, but you are not agreeing because you think if you agree once, that means you agree all the time. That does not mean that, and it actually would win you more points to agree when you agree and have the audience see that, because there's something I've thought about a lot, which is the monopoly effect. I have a poem about that. It's not called the monopoly effect in my poetry book. It's called, I actually don't remember the name, but it was about censorship and taboos. It's about taboos. It's my first poetry book. But the concept of taboos and the concept of these things, and what is the monopoly effect? The monopoly effect is, if someone, this is why the looks-maxing community is popular in my opinion. If someone gives you one thing, they can have more leeway somewhere else. Like, if you ain't got no competition, you can raise your prices. And that's very literal and like selling and buying and these kind of things. But it's also true and emotional. If, like, looks maxing, for example, there's a lot of people who have felt insecure about the way they look and felt like their looks do matter and they're not getting it right and all of these things. And so the looks maxing community taps into that feeling hugely. And so fairly or unfairly, they get a leverage over everyone else who doesn't tap into that feeling. And the people who are watching them are more likely to overlook, oh, well, they say this, oh, well, they support that, oh, well, this or that, because this person is tapping into a huge insecurity. And especially if you then say, no, looks don't matter, no, this doesn't matter, you are leaving the monopoly to them. You're like, it's like the stock of this concept. And if you give them 100% of that stock, the person in charge of the stock can say more. But if you take like 25%, you now have a say too, and you can be like, no, I believe this, I believe looks are important, but I don't believe in that position. But if you are mindless contrarian, you don't have that advantage, and then you leave actually the debate to be won by the other person. But yeah, that was my kind of thoughts on his books. I love them. I am currently reading Why He Writes. That's a book he also was writing. I read the first couple pages. I think I accidentally ordered like on Kindle the wrong copy because it's only 11 pages and the original is like 128. So I'm gonna probably have to reorder it. But so I'm reading that. Maybe I'm reading a sample. I have no idea. It's been a busy couple of weeks. But yeah, that's been kind of my thoughts. Let me know if you read The Elephant essay he did. Please let me know. Tell me anything you know about him. And also, obviously, you could always request an author you want me to do this about, a topic you want, and don't forget to check out the books that are about to come up. Bye. Are you a question or an answer? The fools who think to stand alone with an idea is scary. Are the same that see comfort in the majority. But if the majority was right, no one would write. No one would think to raise a pencil to each of the new empty papers. Nobody would want to turn paper into pages. Because the peace a writer searches for in a blank page would be found in the world. The discussion of right or wrong is subjective, yet, most of the time, the ideas we love would fade away as quickly as everybody else. We love to be loved, but don't love to be questioned. Yet, wouldn't you rather be a question everybody answers differently than an answer nobody knows? They might never see you, and you might never see them. They might never see you. They might never hear the disappointment in your silence. They might never know the sentences you want to say but don't in fear of sounding like a broken record. They might never see all the insecurities you don't point out to them because you're scared they will stand out to them now too. They might never see the small changes in your pupils when you look at them. they never see your eyes when you don't look at them. They might never see you outside of the context of them. They might never hear the small sighs in the morning when you start another day trying to be better, but being pretty sure you will fail. They will never hear the songs you skip because they make you too emotional. They will never hear all the things you think are so clear, but you never said to them. You might go through life hearing different reviews of the series of books which is your life, none true, but some quite inventive and far-fetched. You might never be seen or heard the way you crave to be. But maybe you will. And that maybe makes it exciting. That small string of maybes might hold you up. It is what makes you go out on yet another date you hate, to get dressed, to get to know someone outside of their home, to try to talk. The small maybe is what we live for. The small maybes of life. Maybe I'll run into the love of my life. Maybe the career I love will love me back. Maybe this life is worth another try, she says, with a small but sharp sigh. So quiet that only another maybe could hear it. And maybe someday the two maybes turned their sighs into laughter and their ears into their most used part themselves. Who knows? Maybe. Even horrible things have to start. What's the point of trying if all I do is wrong? He thinks the second part of the sentence, why am I guilty until proven innocent? I am a New York journalist. My birthday is on the 24th of December 1994. I just turned 30. It's Christmas and I'm alone in all the ways a soul can be and a body cannot be. I am 1 meter 95, 58 centimeters. Or in feet, that's 6 feet 5 inches. I know I shouldn't be so exact. And to be honest, I'm not even such a numbers guy. But that's partially how the world has defined me. And since it's one of the few positive traits I get complimented on, I keep it close. Like a lonely woman and her Birkin. I swear I'm not as shallow as I sound, he says to his date, Annabelle, who clearly is just as annoyed at life as he is. They both do the first date angry tango. They both thought at least twice, well, you seem nice. Why are you still single? But what they actually ended up saying was, what do you bring to the table? He says. His date replies, nothing. We are at a restaurant, so last I checked, that's the waiter's job. Then she fell into a laugh so deep you would have thought she was a comedian who just hit a comedic home run. That was the first page and one sentence of the second page of my fiction book. It's called The Great Souls Disconnect. If you also just look up my name, Anna Cobbler, I will put it here how to type it, and also it's my username. You can check it out on Amazon. It's available on Kindle and hardcover. Look at this cover. I hope you enjoyed those trailers of my books, and if you want to read on, order them on Amazon. Everything is linked in the description, always. And you can also always look it up under my name, Anna Cobbler. Thanks.